Today, we actually know someone that works transporting bodies, human remains, and things like that. So today I got a call from that person, and they were just talking about the body that they
Came
encountered.
across. This was Nolan Wells.
So before knowing all that, he said that
Terry Crump, Brian Rose, Juicy Wire. There's been a lot of misinformation that's been spread online, especially the pool picture that was shared by you, and you had said that...
Well, I didn't share it, I reposted it. We're reposting everything. Let's make it clear, we're reposting everything because we're trying to get people to come in and call. And so...
That is 2 charges, 2 felony charges at that. If this is true, it can only be a certain amount of people that if this is true, it can get narrowed down easily to who this is. Today, there was a second press conference by Ben Crump and Nolan Wells' family. We're going to go over that. Plus, there are some people out there that are spreading this, I would say, narrative or story about Nolan Wells' body being transported, and that they saw the body and the body was all messed up and the transportation was done wrong and just all kind of things. And I've come across multiple accounts of people saying this same story, guys, which is funny because somebody emailed me last night to repeat this same story. We're going to debunk this to see if this is true or false, or are these people lying or what? Stay tuned, Fugitive TV. Welcome to Fugitive TV. I am your host, Marcel, and what we do here is we take a look at cases of missing individuals, anything true crime. I try and give you a deeper look than what the surface media gives you, and I try and give you a different perspective because I was once a fugitive on the run from the law myself. I ran for 15 years and I lived in different countries, assumed different names, then eventually turned myself in. Now I have this YouTube channel. I'm a motivational speaker, and I help family members with true crime cases, especially with missing people, to try and locate them. Well, Nolan Wells. We've talked about Nolan Wells. This is, I think, my 4th or 5th video on Nolan Wells. This is in case if you don't know who Nolan Wells is. He is the young man who unfortunately lost his life right outside of Mississippi on a place called Horn Island, which is 10 miles from the coast of Mississippi. He was out boating with some friends and some sort of way got lost in a shuffle. We don't know exactly what happened to this day. His friends say he stayed behind with the girl saying he stayed behind with the friends. We don't know. The friends left. They had to leave early. And 2 days later, we know Nolan's body turns up on the coast of Horn Island. All right. There's been a first autopsy done. So far, we don't even know what the conclusion of that autopsy is. Okay. Now, we don't know what the manner or cause of death is. Now, some people don't know this. There's the cause of death, and then there's the manner of death. Okay. That's 2 different things. 2 different things. Cause of death could be, let's say, drowning. Nolan drowned. That is the cause of death. The manner could be something different. It could be the manner could be accidental drowning. The manner could be homicidal drowning, as in they forced him under the water to drown. You guys get it? So I figure I'd break that down because I do see confusion with that sometimes. So those are 2 different things, but we don't have either of those 2 back. Okay. So there's people running a narrative saying that, hey, the autopsy results are back, or, well, my thing is, if you are saying, show us the proof, let's see the autopsy. That's what I like to say to that. But so far, nobody has it. It's nothing we can get. All right. Now in Mississippi, in that county, I did read on that. All right. Because I don't take people's word for it. I read and I saw you can request the autopsy results, but you don't get the full autopsy results unless you're a medical examiner or somebody on a legal team. But you can pretty much get kind of like a cliff notes of it if you want to put it in simpler terms. All right. Well, that has not came back, but I do see people running with narratives out there. Speaking of narratives, there is a ton of narratives speaking with how his body was transported. I don't know if you saw these videos, but some videos are claiming that they saw the body. I don't know if these people are lying. We're going to take a look at this. I do know I got an email last night saying, hey, you should talk about this. I replied back, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because, guys, we're going to see if this is false. And I'm going to tell you what I did to try and uncover if this is false or true. All right. Now, some people are saying, I've had comments even on my YouTube videos, okay, that, hey, they had to identify the body by dental records. All right. They had to. That means that they couldn't identify him the way he looks. Hold up. That's not true. Not true. Okay. First of all, usually they identify your body in different ways. Family member or next of kin will come and see the body and say, yep, that's him or her. Or they will fingerprint you. That's the first thing they do, is fingerprint you. If your fingerprints are not in the system, then they identify you by dental records. Nolan Wells' fingerprints is probably not in the system. You know why? He hasn't been in the system. First of all, he's 18 years old? So he hasn't been in the system. I ran his background check. He's never been arrested to even put his fingerprints in the system. So it would make sense of why they did a dental records, of why they identified him through that way. All right. So that way they know for sure it's Nolan, especially with this high profile case, and they're not making an assumption. All right. So that would make sense. So I see some people are saying, oh, he was beat up bad and things like that. That's why I did the identify. You have to look and go deep diving into why they would do this. Now, I'm not saying because I didn't see the body, so I don't know. So I'm not saying, oh, he wasn't beat up or anything. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you have to look at why they do that, not just assume. Now, before we get into the second autopsy, the speculation of his body and the video that's going around and the email that was sent to me that wanted me to put out this narrative, which is funny because this is like the second time somebody has approached me to put out a narrative. The first time somebody tried to offer me some money. Well, like I said, we're going to talk about that. All right. We're going to get into that. Well, there was a press conference today by Ben Crump and his attorneys and the family. All right. The press conference, they answered questions, and then they also said that they just met up with the sheriff of, that town or county.
An opportunity to meet with District Attorney Angel McElgrath and some members of her team. We had a very respectful meeting. The thing I assume some of you may know, the thing to announce, she shared with the family that there will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation. We also agreed that we will have a mutual inspection of the cell phone with our experts and their experts.
Now, the one thing he did say is that they're going to turn over any evidence over to a grand jury. Just in case if you don't know what a grand jury is, a grand jury is a group of individuals, regular citizens like me and you, that are part of the grand juries. And what they do is they meet every so often, depending on the size of the county, how often there's crimes, all kind of things. But they meet every so often. And then what the prosecution does is present them cases. Then they present evidence like, hey, we have the evidence on this case against this individual. And then the grand jury will decide if these individuals should be charged or not. So from what he just said, if this is all correct, the sheriff is going to present the evidence to the prosecution. Now, the sheriff doesn't present the evidence to the grand jury. The sheriff will present the evidence to the prosecution team, and then the prosecution team will decide if this needs to go to a grand jury or not. And then the grand jury will decide if they need to indict these people, you know. And what they'll do during this grand jury, which is a good thing, what they'll do, or what they should do, is now subpoena people to court. So witnesses will get subpoenaed to court to testify in front of the grand jury. All right. And if these witnesses, you know, they start talking about something that, you know, sparks a charge, then an indictment can come down. So that is one of the good signs out of this press conference that we got today. This is probably the major thing that we got.
Attorney Eric Hertz is helping lead the investigation team with former law enforcement experts who are going to help us with the cell phone download. So everybody will be able to see at the same time what the cell phone has.
Well, Ben Crump did say a couple interesting things. All right. Now, these things he said, I don't know if, let's say, he's saying some things to maybe put pressure. That part I don't know. But one of the first things he said was the procedure. The sheriff told them how the procedure is supposed to work. Now, us in YouTube and social media land, TikTok land, and everything else, people want everything microwaved. Which, what do I mean by microwaved? They want it quick. They want it instant. We want to hear it now and everything else, which is fine. But the problem is when you want it microwaved, you want to hear it now and you want to get it quick and instant. It's not going to taste as good. Okay. The background's not going to be in it. You don't know where it came from. So sometimes you have to take your time and research what could be cooking. All right. Well, some people were mad from the first press conference that the mom said she hasn't heard anything from the sheriff's office a week prior. And the only reason why she heard is because she had to text him. I don't know how many people watching this video talk to homicide detectives daily or any sort of investigation detectives daily, okay? There's a lot of stuff they want to keep close to the chest. I'm not a cop, not a detective, and I know this. They want to keep things close to the chest or to the vest, like they say, to keep the integrity of the case. Now I'm going to tell you why. They are talking about, you know, and when I say they, I'm saying people. People are saying they want Nolan's friends, especially the white kids, they want them to be interrogated and investigated and things like that. Here's the problem, guys. We don't know if they're being investigated. We don't know if they're being interrogated. Now, we do know Ashley Cole, the mom of one of the boys, did make a statement saying, hey, yeah, my son's cooperating. He's talked with law enforcement. So we do know that. Unless she could be possibly telling a story, we don't know what's true. But I do know this. I do know after police interrogate somebody, question somebody, they don't go publicly and tell anybody else, hey, we just talked to John Smith over here and we're going to let you know what he said. They don't do that. That's not happening. Because they don't want word getting out that they question John Smith. They don't want word getting out of what John Smith says. Because what if word gets out of what John Smith says? Now, whoever else they got to go question that's in association with John Smith can now align their stories to what John Smith says. That's why they don't interrogate you and question you together. They take you in two separate rooms, 2 separate days, whatever it is. They question John Smith, and then they go over here and question this person over here. And then they see if your stories match. They see if they are lying. And whoever story does not match, Now they're like, why does his story not match this person? Let's go question them again. And then this is when the pressure starts and they can catch you in line. So I understand if they're not contacting the family as much as we want them to. I understand that. Because if there's no new public updates that they want us to know about, then they're not going to tell us. Okay? So I completely understand that. Matter of fact, I talk with on my phone 2 investigators right now with 2 separate cases that I'm working on because of evidence that I have found. Now one of them, or I should say they both replied back to me maybe the very first time, but when I reply with something new or something else, a lot of times they don't reply back. I don't expect them to reply back for what? Why? You know, either my evidence is going to help them or it's not going to help them. You know, so hey, I don't expect them to give me a call like, hey, Mr. Ray Marcel, yeah, this is what we're doing right now. I don't expect all that. It doesn't happen that way. And I've also been on the other side of I'm the one getting interrogated. I'm the one getting questioned. So I know exactly how that works.
Terry Crump, Brian Rose, Juicy Wire. There's been a lot of misinformation that's been spread online, especially the pool picture that was shared by you, and you had said that...
Well, I didn't share it, I reposted it. We're reposting everything. Let's make it clear, we're reposting everything because we're trying to get people to come in and call. And so we've said from the beginning, we're in a ferocious search for the truth. And so things out there, we are trying to post, ask people, do you know something about this? Let us know. Just because we repost does not mean that we authenticate anything.
Now let's get into this whole body situation. All right. There is a video that's floating around, and the video is claiming that they spoke with somebody who was transporting the body of Nolan Wells, and they're saying this is what the body looked like. This is how they transported the body, and it's very disrespectful. They're saying it was burned. They're saying it's bruised. They're saying all kind of things. Check this out, guys.
Today, we actually know someone that works transporting bodies, human remains, and things like that. So today I got a call from that person, and they were just talking about the body that they
Came across. This was Nolan Wells.
So before knowing all that, he said that the body was mistreated.
Yeah.
It looked abused. It looked like he was tortured. Looked as if he was burnt, maybe.
Where?
Face, body, said he was burnt.
And not only that, his body was mistreated when they transported him.
So as they were transporting him, he was actually face down. So everyone knows when you're transporting a body, when, only a couple of people work that job, they all know you don't transport the body face down. That's kind of very disrespectful. So you always have them face up. Well, specifically his body whatever reason was face down. And me personally, I took that as disrespect.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to the family.
Yes, definitely.
Because all we know is what they put out
on the internet.
But today, we actually found out a lot about his autopsy without even reading the autopsy.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
I'm so sorry that family have to go through this. Really just...
I want to give our condolences to the family, as a mom or moms.
Grandmothers.
Dads. Family. Period. We give the most prayers to you, and we stand behind you. Mm-hmm. What was seen today was unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. And that's why we want to inform what's going on during the transport. Like
this isn't something you can be quiet on
at all.
When you've seen something so heartbreaking.
Now, before you start typing in the comments, I want to show you they are not the only ones who said this. I've came across about, I think, 3 or 4 TikToks in the last 30 minutes looking. There's somebody else who's claiming they know the person who transport too. Check this out.
During transit from DC to Mississippi, from Mississippi to DC. So one of my mutuals on social media knows someone who works in the transit department at an airline. They witnessed what they saw and smelled, okay? Nolan's body, for one, was treated without any dignity. Anybody knows when you are dealing with the remains of a human being, the number one rule is to treat them with dignity. They may no longer be here in body, but they are still here in spirit. And the way they describe the way Nolan's body was transported is ridiculous. It's very unprofessional, because this is still an ongoing investigation. So who knows the way y'all treated his body during transit. They said his body was not right side up. He was face down during transit. That is so inhumane and sick to even fathom, to vision it, like just to vision it. It's horrible. There was an odor. They said his body looked like he had been burned. And I know that's more than likely due to, decomposition. His body is unfortunately decomposing. And I don't know if y'all have any loved ones that has been transported from state to state when they were unalive. My grandmother was. And the cabin that they put them in, it's hot. It's like they're cargo.
So do both of these people know the same individual who transported Nolan's body? Do all three of these individuals know the same person who was transporting Nolan's body? I see people running with this right now. Now, I'm not saying these individuals are lying, and I'm not saying they're telling the truth, but I do see a lot of individuals on their platforms, whether it be TikTok, I see other YouTube creators just posting this and then saying, I told you so, I told you so, but without doing any proper investigation to see if this is real, could they really be telling the truth, or anything. All right. And then you see people in the comment section believing it. All right. Well, here on Fugitive TV, when we see stuff like this, we don't just repost and we don't just say, oh my God, this is what happened. No, what we do here is we try our best to see, is this false or is this real? Well, let me tell you something. All right. I called a funeral home and I asked them, I said, hey, what's the procedure of transporting a body? And they told me, hey, well, usually when a person dies and you got to this is what we do. Then I said, all right, well, how do you transport a body that needs to go for a second autopsy? Is it the same procedure? And they told me it pretty much is the same procedure, except the only difference is going to be what the initial body is inside of. So for example, when a body gets shipped from a funeral home, a lot of times the body will be in a coffin and filled with embalming fluid to keep the body, preserved, and then sealed in a container and then strapped down, which I'm going to show you guys, okay? And then shipped out. Now, if the body has to go for a second autopsy, what they said was that that body a lot of times is not going to get put in a coffin, but it will get put in some sort of container or leak-proof bag. And then you have 2 ways of preserving the body, or actually 3 ways. You can put embalming fluid in the body. But what they told me is if it's going for a second autopsy, medical examiners don't want the embalming fluid in the body because it can mess up tissues and things like that. They want to keep the body preserved natural as much as possible. So the other 2 ways would be dry ice. They have these dry ice packets that they can put the body on, or refrigeration. There is a commercial refrigeration system that the body can go inside. Now, take a look at these videos that I found.
Extreme care. Everything is marked accordingly. I am going to take the air tray off, the air tray of this housing, and also protecting the casket, which of course is housing the loved one who we have received. These are straps. I guess if you could compare it to anything. It would be like a ratchet strap, very thick, keeps the cardboard down and secure. There are knots here to loosen and tie. In bigger city funeral homes, there's a lot of, especially where tourists travel often, right? Someone passes away, so they need to get back, right? So this is something that some funeral homes specialize in, is getting loved ones back. You can tell based upon how a loved one is boxed in their air tray or how all of the paperwork is, whether or not the funeral home is seasoned, if you will, at doing this. And this funeral home is absolutely seasoned.
Landed Sergeant LaDavid Johnson's remains are here, and I want to just step aside because it is simply a heart-wrenching sight for his family assembled here on the tarmac to witness. The casket is in what you're looking at right now is a white cargo container of sorts, a special cargo container by the airlines for exactly this kind of ceremony.
So this is what it looks like on the inside. The decedent will go right in here. This is an envelope that adheres to the outside of the combo where we put our permits and our special paperwork. And there's even a little foam pillow. And you probably noticed all these straps too. So the inside straps we do tie around the decedent to help keep it in place. And the straps on the outside go on the outside over the lid to help keep that in place.
Now, I showed you those videos. Those videos are pretty much what they told me is how the body is transferred. It's sealed in a bag or the coffin, all right? That is tied up. Then it's put into pretty much a container. That container is sealed, and then they seal that container with these straps. So if you notice in all those videos I showed you, there's black straps going around the container, okay? And those straps, of course, keep the container sealed. And then the body is transported most of the time on a commercial flight with people's luggage is how it's transported, all right? Unless they're paying for some sort of private commercial flight or anything of that nature, or a lot of times if it's military, it can be on a military flight. Now, the one thing I wanted to show you, I don't know if you, in that first video, if you guys noticed, it did stop for a split second and it did show like a box with Nolan Wells on it. So let me show you that again. So there is a box and it says Nolan Xavier and I believe Wells, but you really can't see because that red trigger warning, the transportation Nolan Wells is on it. Here's the thing. Even if you take the red part away, I don't see the E unless there's a little small case E or a little E in between the W and LL that we can't see, which could be possible. All right. And then it says deceased. Now you see by the X, you do see a black strap. So that part is correct. There is a black strap. So we do see that this box was sealed and it was strapped. All right. So just like those other boxes I told you, and just like the funeral director I told you, it is now, if this is correct, if this is the correct, his body's in his box, is the correct box, nobody's playing a game with us. It is sealed and strapped. Now, the people who package the body, and listen closely, guys, because all this is very important. The people who package the body is not the people at Delta Airlines or American Airlines. No, they don't do this because they aren't medical examiners. And you have to be careful of not to taint the body, especially if it's going for a second autopsy. Okay? You can't, you have to preserve it. So it's either going to be licensed funeral directors who put them in this packaging and strapped the box, or the medical examiner and their team who's going to put them in a package and then, get it shipped out. So these people who are claiming to know, we know the people transporting, and they called me for Nolan Wells and told me this. If this is the case, guys, it can only be a few people who would have done this. It would have to be the medical examiners or somebody who was loading onto whatever airline it was. And not only that, who opened, if it's true, who opened, unstrapped the box and then unzipped the package? Who would have done that? I'm asking, who would have done that? Who would have unzipped or undid the straps, opened the box, and undid the package? Guys, if this is true, you know what this is? You know what that, do you know what that is? That's 2 charges, guys. Tampering with evidence, tampering with corpse. That is 2 charges. 2 felony charges at that. If this is true, it can only be a certain amount of people that if this is true, it can get narrowed down easily to who this is. For example, if it was one of the people transporting, taking the package and putting it on the plane that work, at the airline facility, there's not 30 people down there doing it. There's only a couple people down there doing that. And they all know who's down there by the plane loading luggage. They take that stuff seriously when it comes to load. They know exactly who did that. If it was the medical examiner, why would they reopen it and then leak the information? They're just going to do an autopsy anyway, and it doesn't make sense. It's not like the package is picked up by Uber or DoorDash and then dropped off at the medical facility. It doesn't work that way. These are all licensed individuals. They have to get the proper paperwork even approved before they even can transport the body and then put it on the airplane and take it. So if the proper paperwork is done, the proper paperwork is even going to include who carried the body to the plane, from the plane, which plane is going on. All that is included in the paperwork.
I've taken the straps off. On top here is paperwork. This paperwork that is traveling. It is essentially what's called the transit permit. Travels with the loved one from where they depart to where they arrive.
That is what they told me. So I'm not saying these people are lying, but I am questioning the facts of this, because I got an email last night before I went to bed. Never saw this person before. And I leave my email in a lot of my description in my videos. Look out for, message me cases. I leave my TikTok, message me on Facebook or whatever it is, right? And they messaged me pretty much telling me, hey, you need to talk about this on your channel tomorrow. You need to let people know that Nolan's body was found, or Nolan's body was transported upside down with his face down, and that he was burned and badly beat up. First thing I thought of was like, I need to talk about this. For one, I replied back with, where did you get this information from? Crickets, ghost. They never replied back. Ever. Never replied back. Second thing is, whoever sent me this must not be watching my videos. They must not know how Ray, Marcel, and Fugitive TV works. We keep integrity around here. Now, I will report sometimes what a witness will say. Now, a witness does not mean that they're telling the truth, guys. Just because a witness said this does not mean they're telling the truth. Just like a journalist will get a report, a witness said this doesn't mean a witness is telling the truth. I consider myself a journalist, investigative journalist. So I will report what witnesses say. I will even report some theories that are going around as well, and then let you guys decide. You guys know me. I will do that because I want to bring you everything. But the one thing I'm not going to do is try and make a decision for you and try and push something on you that, hey, this right here is true. This right here is fact. You're not going to hear me say that. But then it made me think. For you guys that's been following me for a while, you know I have a video. I said somebody tried to pay me $250 to try and run a narrative on another case not too long ago, which I took it as an insult. Not because it was just $250, but because you guys don't watch my channel. You don't know who you haven't learned me. So I took it as an insult. So I started thinking, are some of these creators, are they getting these messages too? Because some of them be getting paid to say certain things, whether it's for this side or that side. And this is why we have so many stories coming out of this and that and this and that. I don't know. Figure I'd bring that up. Let me know what you think. Let me know. All right? Everybody watching this video, let me know what you think down below. Do you think these individuals are telling the truth? And if they are, they just happen to know the same person transporting. And if they are telling the truth, if they are, and people are pushing for a proper investigation, and they want justice to be served, and if you have somebody opening up the evidence and tampering with it, shouldn't they be investigated too, if that's the truth and if that's what you really want? Because now you're tampering with evidence. Shouldn't they be charged too? And shouldn't they be the ones looked at as well? Like, why are you opening these up? We should be seeing arrests in a couple of days if that's the case. Because like I said, it'd be easy to find who it is. And not only that, why would these individuals go online and tell? Oh, my friend called and told me. So your next step is, oh, okay, let me go on TikTok and tell these people what you discovered. I'm not going to say your name. Don't worry about it. Well, I mean, only a few people are handling the package. It's not like it's going from UPS to FedEx to DHL to USPS and then to your doorstep. No, it's only a few people handling the package. And these few people are all accounted for. Like I said, I don't know if they're telling the truth. I don't know if they believe what the other person told them. I have no idea. That still frame I showed you with the strap on it with Nolan Wells, I don't know if that's true or not. I do know one thing though. There is also a piece of paper that gets put on the top of the box, just like on your UPS sometimes a piece of paper gets put on. There's a big piece of paper that goes on the front of the box too, or on top of the box. All that is the records of who's in there, date of birth, all that stuff is on there. Why not take a picture of that too? If this is really what happened. So I don't know, guys. You guys let me know. What do you think? Do you believe this theory? Do you not believe the theory? And before I go away, do you remember the Cajun Navy? Do you remember what the guy said when he saw the body? Do you remember what he said? Let me jog your memory.
Body is kind of looking for here.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is wait for the autopsy results. The preliminary report from the people that found Nolan is that it was an apparent drowning. Now, again, this is just people putting eyeballs on him, saying it doesn't look like any other kind of, blunt force trauma to the body other than a drowning. Again, that's secondhand from what I've heard. Wait for the autopsy results to come out. There's going to be the one from the Mississippi State Examiner, and the family's hired a private doctor to do a private autopsy. So you're going to have two different sets of medical eyes and educations on this. Let's see what they say. Let's let the cops keep talking.
Now, he is not a member of Mississippi government. The Cajun Navy is out of Louisiana, and they are a widely respected organization for finding missing individuals. So that means he would be lying too. This man would be lying. Now, I don't know about you, but who holds more credibility here? Some TikTokers or the Cajun Navy? All I got to say about that. But you guys let me know below. What do you think? Do you think this is true? You know, do you think the guy from the Cajun Navy lied? Because he said, looks like there was no foul play. There was no blunt force trauma or anything like that. That's what they said. Or is this a narrative that creators could be getting paid for to run with? I don't know. I'm not going to make that decision. But please, everybody, take care of one another, love one another, watch out for your surroundings. Look out at your surroundings, all right? Make sure you like, you subscribe, all right? Watch the prior videos if you want to on the Nolan Wells case that I have done, or even the House of Horrors with the 16 individuals found in the home, all under the age of 18, all right? These are the two cases I've been reported on lately. I'll be talking with you guys soon. Fugitive TV, and I'm out.